You won't believe how a single second of humiliation turned into the most beautiful year of my life. If you've ever felt lonely, or thought that your story was over, you need to hear this. But please, do me a favor, smash that like button right now. It helps this channel reach broken hearts everywhere. And subscribe, because this is going to be a journey you don't want to miss. The sun was a relentless, blinding disk of white heat over the Santa Monica coastline, the kind of afternoon where the air shimmers and the sand burns the soles of your feet. For most people, this was paradise. For Jack Miller, it was a battlefield. Jack adjusted the strap of the oversized canvas bag cutting into his shoulder. Inside, there were towels, sunscreen, a half-eaten bag of goldfish crackers, and a sense of overwhelming dread that he packed every morning. He was 36, a statistician by trade, a man who lived his life by probabilities and margins of error, but nothing in his spreadsheets had prepared him for the chaos of being a single father to a spirited 6-year-old girl named Lily. "Daddy, look! The ocean is waving at me!" Lily shrieked, her voice piercing the dull roar of the crashing waves. She was a blur of neon pink ruffles and sun-bleached curls, sprinting toward the water with the reckless abandon of someone who didn't know that the world could hurt you. "Lily, wait. We have to put on sunscreen first." Jack called out, his voice strained. He broke into a jog, the sand shifting treacherously beneath his sneakers, making him feel clumsy and heavy. He wasn't out of shape, but he carried a weight that couldn't be measured in pounds. It had been 2 years since the accident. 2 years since the probability curves of his life had collapsed into a single, crushing point of zero. 2 years of navigating the grocery store, the parent-teacher conferences, and the lonely, silent nights entirely on his own. He caught up to her at the water's edge, breathless. "Okay, Bug. Let's set up camp." As Jack unfolded the bright blue beach umbrella, fighting a sudden gust of wind that threatened to send it tumbling down the shore, he felt the familiar prickly sensation of being watched. Or rather, the sensation of being out of place. He looked up, squinting against the glare. A few yards away, a woman was emerging from the water. In the interest of honesty, Jack's brain registered 3 things instantly, the way a statistician processes data. 1. She was beautiful, with the kind of effortless grace that usually only exists in movies. 2. She was his neighbor. He recognized the auburn hair and the sharp jawline from awkward elevator rides in their apartment building. He didn't know her name, only that she kept odd hours and had a door that always seemed to be freshly painted. 3. She was walking directly toward him. Jack froze. His social muscles had atrophied severely since his wife, Elena, passed away. He didn't know how to talk to women anymore. He didn't know the protocol. Was he supposed to wave? Say hello? Pretend he didn't see the water dripping from her shoulders? He stared. He didn't mean to stare, but his brain was buffering, trying to reconcile the woman from apartment 4B with this sea goddess vision walking toward him in a black swimsuit. His eyes drifted, not out of lust, but out of a dazed confusion, landing on a jagged, angry red mark just above her collarbone, peeking out from the fabric. It was a scar, brutal and stark against her pale skin. She stopped abruptly. The wind died down. The sound of seagulls seemed to fade into the background. Jack looked up, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open, still processing the scar, the neighbor, the heat, the overwhelming noise of the beach. Her voice cut through the air like a knife. It wasn't playful. It was cold, hard steel. "Eyes are up here." Jack blinked. The world tilted on its axis. What?" he stammered, the blood draining from his face. She crossed her arms, her expression shifting from surprise to pure disdain. "I said, my eyes are up here. I know I'm in a swimsuit, but that doesn't give you the right to stare at my chest like a piece of meat, Jack." She knew his name. He was stunned. Not just by the accusation, but by the sheer force of her venom. And then, the realization hit him like a physical blow. She thought he was ogling her. She thought he was just another guy on the beach being a creep. "No, I wasn't," he managed, his voice cracking. He felt Lily tugging on his shorts, confused by the sudden tension. "Sure," the woman scoffed, grabbing a towel from her bag. Tell that to your daughter. Great role modeling. She turned on her heel and stormed off toward the boardwalk, leaving Jack standing in the sand, his face burning hotter than the sun, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm of shame and confusion. He hadn't been looking at her body. He had been looking at the scar. He recognized that scar. It was the same type of mark Elena had after her second surgery, a thoracotomy scar. A scar that meant you had fought for your life against something trying to eat you from the inside out. But the moment was gone. The damage was done. He looked down at Lily, who was looking up at him with big, worried eyes. Daddy, why was the lady mad? Jack swallowed the lump in his throat. Sometimes, Bug, grown-ups misunderstand each other. Come on. Let's build that castle. That evening, the apartment felt smaller than usual. The walls seemed to press in on Jack, the silence of the rooms amplified by the memory of the woman's voice. Eyes are up here. He sat at the kitchen table, a half-cold cup of coffee beside him, staring at a photograph of Elena. She was laughing, her head thrown back, the sun catching the scar on her chest, the scar she usually kept hidden under scarves and high necklines. The scar that had been the map of their shared hell during the final year of her life. He hadn't been looking at the neighbor's chest. He had been looking at a ghost. A knock at the door startled him. It was 9 p.m. Too late for solicitors. Too early for party noises from the hallway. He opened the door, and his breath hitched. It was her. The neighbor. She was wearing a large hoodie and sweatpants, her hair pulled back in a wet ponytail. She looked smaller than she had on the beach. The steel in her eyes was gone, replaced by something that looked uncomfortably like guilt. She held out a Tupperware container. I baked too much, she muttered, not meeting his eyes. Zucchini bread. Jack blinked. Thanks. She shifted her weight, biting her lip. The silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. Finally, she looked up, and he saw the exhaustion in her face. It mirrored his own. I shouldn't have snapped at you, she said, the words rushing out. At the beach. It was a reflex. I get tired of the staring. Jack leaned against the doorframe, his defenses lowering just a fraction. I wasn't staring at you, he said quietly. I mean, I was. But not like that. She let out a dry laugh. That's a new one. Let me guess, you were staring into my soul. No, Jack said, his voice dropping to a whisper. I was staring at your scar. The air left the room. She took a half step back, her hand instinctively going to her collarbone, clutching the fabric of her hoodie tight. Her face went pale. What? She whispered. I'm sorry, Jack said quickly. That sounds creepy. It's just, my wife. Elena. She had one. Just like it. In the same spot. He pointed to his own chest, right above his heart. Thoracotomy. For the tumors. The neighbor's hand froze. Her eyes searched his face, frantically looking for a lie, a trick, a punchline. She found none. She passed, the woman asked, her voice trembling. 2 years ago, Jack said. I saw you coming out of the water, and I saw the mark. And for a second, I wasn't at the beach. I was back in the hospital. I was just shocked. I'm sorry. The woman, this stranger who had been so sharp and armored just hours ago, crumbled. Her shoulders slumped, and a small, broken sound escaped her throat. She leaned against the opposite doorframe, covering her mouth with her hand. Oh God, she breathed. Oh my God. I am so sorry. I thought you were just. I know what you thought, Jack said gently. It's okay. You don't owe me an apology. You're right. People stare. Not for the reason I thought, she whispered, looking at him with a new, terrifying kind of clarity. Not for the reason I thought. She extended the Tupperware again, her hand shaking slightly. I'm Sarah, she said. Jack, he replied, taking the bread. Their fingers brushed, and for the first time in 2 years, Jack didn't flinch away from the contact. Over the next few weeks, the dynamic in apartment 4B and 4C shifted. The zucchini bread was returned, washed and filled with homemade lasagna. The lasagna was returned filled with Lily's drawings. Then, the containers stopped coming back, and the visit started. Sarah would sit on Jack's balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sunset. She told him her story. She was a photographer. She had survived Hodgkin's lymphoma, a brutal 3-year battle that had taken her youth, her hair, and her fiancé, who couldn't handle the sickness part of the vows. He left when I started chemo, Sarah said one evening, her voice flat. Said he wasn't built for tragedy. So I built the walls up. I assumed every man was looking at the defect in the merchandise. You're not defective, Jack said, sipping his beer. You're a survivor. Like a limited edition with battle damage. It makes you more valuable. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and Jack felt a spark of something he thought was dead. Fear. And excitement. But life isn't a fairy tale. It doesn't fix itself with one conversation. Jack had Lily to think about. He had a grief that sat in his chest like a stone. The challenge came on a rainy Tuesday in November. Jack was at work when the call came. The school. Lily had a fever. A high 104 degrees. And he was an hour away in a data center migration. He called Sarah. He didn't know why he called her. She wasn't family. She wasn't his girlfriend. She was just the neighbor who misunderstood him on a beach. But she was the only name his thumb could find in his panic. Sarah, I need help. I'm there. 10 minutes. She picked Lily up. She took her to the ER when the fever spiked to 105. She sat in the plastic chair, holding Lily's burning hand, singing songs she didn't know the words to, humming a melody that sounded suspiciously like the lullaby Jack's mom used to sing. By the time Jack burst through the hospital doors, panic sweat soaking his shirt, Lily was asleep, and 4 in her tiny arm. Sarah was sitting next to the bed, reading a book. Jack fell to his knees beside the chair. He didn't say thank you. He just buried his face in Sarah's lap and sobbed. He sobbed for the fear, for the exhaustion, for the 2 years of holding it all together, and for the relief of someone else holding the weight for just a few hours. Sarah ran her fingers through his hair. She didn't say, "It's okay." She didn't offer platitudes. She just let him break. "I can't do this alone," Jack choked out, the words scraping his throat. I can't raise her alone. I'm failing." "You're not failing," Sarah whispered, her voice fierce. "You're fighting a war with no ammo. But you're not alone anymore. Look at me, Jack." He looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but steady. "Eyes are up here," she said softly. This time, the phrase didn't cut. It healed. It was a reminder. See me. See the truth. Don't look at the past. Don't look at the scars. Look at me, here, now, I see you, Jack said. Good, she said, wiping a tear from his cheek with her thumb. Because I'm not going anywhere. This kid has terrible taste in books, and someone needs to fix that. The recovery was slow. Not just for Lily, who fought a nasty virus, but for Jack and Sarah. They were two people learning to walk on prosthetic hearts. They had to figure out how to trust the floor wouldn't drop out again. 6 months later, they were back on the beach. The same stretch of sand where it all began. Lily was running toward the water again, older now, a little taller, her laughter ringing out like a bell. Jack sat on a blanket, his arm around Sarah. She was wearing a swimsuit, but this time she didn't cover the scar. She let the sun hit it. You know, Jack said, watching the waves. I used to hate this beach. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. Why? Because it was too loud. Too happy. It reminded me of what I lost. And now? Jack looked at her. He looked at the scar on her chest, white and faded and beautiful. He looked at the woman who had saved him from the quiet of his own apartment. He looked at his daughter, who was splashing in the foam. Now I know that the noise isn't the enemy, Jack said. The silence was. He turned to Sarah, lifting her chin. I was stunned that day on the beach. Stunned by how wrong I was about everything. Sarah smiled, a real, genuine, toothy smile that reached her eyes. You were stunned because I told you to look up. Yeah, Jack whispered. And I'm glad I did. He kissed her. It wasn't a movie kiss. It tasted like saltwater and sunscreen and the stale coffee they'd shared that morning. It was a promise. A promise that broken things could be mended. That scars were just evidence of a life lived fiercely. As they pulled apart, Lily came running back, soaking wet. Daddy! Sarah! Come look! The crabs are fighting. We're coming, Bug, Jack said. He stood up, brushing the sand off his legs. He extended a hand to Sarah. She took it. She didn't let go. And that, my friends, is the story of how a misunderstanding saved a life. Sometimes, we build walls to protect ourselves, but all we're really doing is keeping the help out. If you're struggling today, if you're a single parent, or if you're fighting a battle no one else can see, keep your eyes up. Look around. Your rescue might be closer than you think. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. We'll see you in the next story.